If you've been wanting to write your story for some time now and you haven't started yet because you don't know how or because you're a prisoner to your fears, then this video is for you. I know how scary it can be to face your past, let alone write it down. But I promise you that starting to write your story is a lot easier than you think. Today, I'm going to show you 3 simple steps that helped me and dozens of others start writing their stories and find healing along the way. Now, for years, I carried a weight of silence. I thought writing my story would only make things worse because it would force me to confront pain and confront the past demons that I just really wasn't ready to face. But the truth is, writing my story is the very thing that set me free. I finally understood my own pain, and for the first time, I felt in control of my life again. And if you're scared to start, that's okay. It's normal. Like, I've lost count of how many people that I speak to that want to write their story, but they don't. Yes, because they don't know how to, but really, it's because the fears that are stopping them from doing it. It's all of the questions that we have inside of here, but we don't have the answers to. It's those demons. And it is normal. But what's more important is what's waiting for you on the other side of those fears, which is healing, is understanding, and maybe is even inspiring someone else with your journey. So, without further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to jump straight into the 3 steps that you can take right now to get started writing your story. Step 1. What's the purpose behind wanting to write it? What's the purpose? Key word there is the purpose. Because you can pick up a pen and you can start writing, but then as soon as the writer's block comes up, as soon as one of those fears get a little bit too loud, you will stop. So what is important is that before you even pick up that pen, is you've got to ask yourself, why do I even want to write my story? Is it to heal? Is it to inspire others out there? Is it maybe to leave a legacy? Is it to pass down to your kids so they can understand what you've been through without you having to actually sit down and talk about it? Because sometimes it is easier to write it and pass it off. But the most important thing is, though, you need to know your why. The purpose is what's going to keep you going when things get hard, because it will get hard. It will. But that doesn't mean you don't do it, right? It just means that you need to prepare accordingly so that when it does get tough, you are the version of yourself that you need to be to go into battle and to win. Now, for me, my purpose was pretty simple. When I wrote my book here, forgot the title for a second, Breaking the Silence. And when I wrote this book, the purpose behind me wanting to write this was so that I can break the cycle of silence that have been so prominent in my family for generations, right? It was to break the generational chain of silence and to help other people do the same. That is why I wrote this book. And that purpose right there, it became my North Star and helped me every single time that I wanted to stop doing it. Step number 2 is you've got to break it down into small pieces. Because one of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that they need to write their whole life story at once. Now, whilst yes, that is what we end up doing at the end, like we do write our whole story. But in order for you to do that, you need the framework to follow, you need the support, you need the accountability. There's a lot of different variables to increase the chances of success for you to actually get through the whole thing of writing your story. And without all of that, it is a hard battle to win every single time. Because it can come up, there's fears, like I said, they do come up, and they don't just come up once, they can come up a fair amount of times throughout the whole process of you writing your story. But having those things in place makes it a lot easier for you to actually get through it. But when you don't have all of that and you're on your own, you're that lone wolf and you're just writing your story, I don't necessarily recommend you just sitting there and blasting out your whole story, because the chances of you actually failing getting to the end is quite high. We need to be smart about this. We need to know how our brain works. We need to know how the fears, how they tend to win. And we need to pivot and come at it from a different angle. And one of the angles, there's many, but one of the angles is to start small. Focus on a single moment that changed you or one chapter of your life and just write. That's it. Don't overcomplicate, just write. Word vomit it all out. And then once you've done that, then you can cross the bridge once you get to it. Like, people need to, they think they need to have this whole plan in place of, okay, step 1, I'm doing this. Step 8, I'm doing this. Step 22, I'm doing this. It's like, but But step 22, the version of yourself that you need to be at step 22 is different from the version of you right now in step 1. And step 2 can overwhelm you. It can fucking make you shit yourself like, oh my God, I don't know how I can manage step 22. You right now won't be able to manage it. The person that you become throughout steps 1 to 21 will allow you to become the version of is needed in step 22 to accomplish step 22. I hope that makes sense. Quick exercise that can maybe help you even further is I want you to write down 3 moments in your life that shaped who you are today. 3 moments in your life that shaped who you are today. Good, bad, because not all the good things shape who we are. The bad things shape who we are too. The abuse that I went through definitely shaped who I am today. And the lens that I choose to see it through is that it shaped me in a good way. Maybe that's the same for you. I don't know. This comes down to a lot of self-awareness and self-discovery, which is one of the key contributing factors why so much growth happens when we're writing our stories, is because of the self-awareness that is built throughout writing our story. Right? It forces us to confront a lot of things. It forces us to see where the dots connect, which I'll talk about in a second. But, you know, once we actually can build up that self-awareness, that's how we can start to make some logical steps moving forward about how we can break through the chains that have been holding us back for so long. Because without the self-awareness, we don't even see the chains that have been holding us back. So let's come back to the exercise. So write down 3 moments in your life that shaped who you are today. Pick one, free write for like, I don't know, 10 minutes. Don't worry about the grammar. Don't worry about the structure. Just let it flow. Flow State is a fantastic book. One of my favorite books called The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. And he talks a lot about flow state, how artists and creatives, and he has this belief that we are all artists. Every single person on this planet is an artist because we're all creating art, different art. You know, art isn't just a picture on a wall in a frame. Art is everything. And he talks a lot about, in order to create the art that moves people, is that it can only come from flow states. A state of flow that is uninterrupted, that can allow us to just be present in that moment with the task at hand. And that, we talk about a lot about that in our community. It is so important for you to be in a flow state when you're writing. This isn't one of the steps, but just like a not off thing, is that when you do decide to sit down and write, do everything humanly possible to have a certain amount of space that is uninterrupted. If you've got kids, kick them out. Okay. If you've got a partner, say, hey, listen, later on, all right? Later on, not now. I'm busy. Okay, just really try to secure that time and just make sure it's uninterrupted. Just try to do what you can. If you need to get up earlier, if you need to go to bed later, like whatever, if you need to leave the house, if you need to get an Airbnb for the night, like, I don't know, depends on your situation. But just do everything you can to say to the universe, right, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to put all the steps into place to make sure that once I start, I'm not going to be interrupted. Because when we're doing a task that we don't really want to do, we know we got to do it, but we're not jumping at joy for doing it. We are going to latch on to every single excuse that we can to try and get ourselves out of doing it. Trust me, that it's just the way we are. So try to prevent that from happening. So let's move on to the third step, which is embracing imperfection. Now, the first draft of your story isn't about being perfect. And the truth is, the final product, like my book, this being my final product, I'm still not happy with this. And I've dived into this. I published this book 4 years ago. And about a year after publishing, I dived back into it just to add an initial chapter at the beginning to tell people what's happened since the first year. So I haven't made any edits to this book for the past 3 years. And the truth is, the reason why I haven't gone back into it is because I'll probably would tear it to shreds. Because I'm not happy with the final version of this. But that is because a quote-unquote flaw of mine is that I'm always chasing this perfectionism, which is just insecurities. It's an unattainable goal that only causes self-sabotage, really. I'm aware of it, but, you know, I can't... It's a part of me that I'm always continuously working. But the reason why I'm sharing this is because I don't think that once you get to this book, you're going to be 100% happy about this is the best thing I've ever done. I'm happy with every single word. I don't feel like I'm missing a chapter or I've done too many chapters. Like, this is absolutely perfect. I have a belief that if it's 80% ready, put it out there. Because that remaining 20%, it's going to fuck you over. It just is. Just get to 80% and put it out. That's the imperfect action. And the truth is, with our story, it's all imperfect. Our stories are imperfect. If our stories are perfect, we never would have gone through abuse. We never would have gone through fucking trauma. None of that. We never would have been broke. We never would have been homeless. We never would have been starving. We never it would all have been just pure 100% happiness every single day of our life from the moment we were born to now. But that just isn't the case. Our lives are imperfect. So we need to make sure that we carry that imperfection through, ideally to every area of life. But at the very least, with writing our stories, it's got to be imperfect. Tanya, one of her books over here, and The Day I Learned to Pump Gas, that's her book, where she talks a lot about grief when she lost her ex-husband. And it's about the life after. Now, she does talk about abuse too from earlier on in her life, but a big chunk of it is about grief. And she said about how the biggest things that came to her from the transformation of her writing her story was being able to see her story in black and white. And she used that phrase that always stayed inside of here, is that seeing your story in black and white will change everything. Because we live our days, in this world, lost in our story. We don't see our story in black and white. So the moment that we do, it changes everything. And that is about getting this first draft of your story done. That's it. Just seeing it in black and white and having the dots connect right in front of you. Once you see the dots connect, once you're like, oh, that's how I got from A to B, and I got from B to C, and all the way through to Z where I am now. Fascinating. That's when your self-confidence and your self-belief take a little skyrise, because it's like, Jesus, I got through a lot of shit and I'm here today. But it requires you to see it in black and white, to see those dots connect in front of you, for you to realize how fucking amazing you are, that you're still here today when so many people out there who have been through similar to you aren't here today. It's kind of like, I was listening to a podcast this morning, and she was saying it's kind of like how there's a mountain, but there's a lot of fog in front of it. The mountain is always there. We just need to get through the fog. We need the fog to clear up in order to see the mountain. It's like you have it in you. You have the voice. You have the power. There's just a lot of fog in the way. And you writing your story is what clears up the fog for you to then, boom, see the power that you possess. When it comes to the story that you've written down on paper, we can always refine it later. But we're not at that bridge yet. Coming back to bridges and crossing it when the time is right, that bridge is so fucking far away, you can't even bloody see it. Right now, you just need to write your story. We can cross that bridge when we get to it later. Right now, though, we need to focus on being honest with ourselves and getting this story done. Okay? Writing your story is not just about the words. It's about the healing that happens as you let it all out. And trust me, the more you write, the clearer your story will become. So, what I want you to do is remember something. I'm wearing it now, my hoodie. Don't know if you can see, you should be able to see that. Your story matters, right? And I wear this a lot. It's part of our clothing brand, because it's to remind people that when I'm out on the street and I'm in the supermarket, or I'm filling up petrol in my car, and somebody sees the front of my hoodie, or they might see the back. I don't know if you'll be able to see. You've got the quote on the back there. Each one has a different quote. But if they see the front, it says your story matters. Because it does. My story matters, your story matters, and sometimes we just need to remember that our story matters. The pain that you've been through, the lessons that you've learned, the strength that you've gained, someone out there needs to hear it. And that someone might just be you, right? So you don't need to have all the answers right now. Just start. Trust me, before starting, I've spoken to probably thousands now, trauma survivors who want to write their story. There's always very, very common things that come up. One of the common things is all these questions that we have circulated inside of here. How do I start? What's the middle like? How many chapters? How do I end a book? I'm not at the end point yet, so should I start writing? What traumas do I highlight? How much detail do I go into? Do I name the abuser if there's abuse? Do I use my name? Do I use a different name? Do I even publish? It just moves. Right, even I'm overwhelmed by just reiterating those questions. But the thing is we try to answer those questions before we start writing. And if that is you, my question to you is, how's that worked out for you? How long have you been trying to answer those questions? You won't answer those questions right now because you're at a certain frequency, you're a current version of yourself that cannot provide you those answers. You need to become someone that has a leveled up, a heightened frequency, right? i.e. a different version of yourself, a 2.0 version of yourself, to then answer the questions. And that version of yourself is who you create through writing your story. The deeper you go into it, the more of that version of yourself you become. It's one of the most powerful, most transformational things. Dare I say, it will be the most powerful and transformational experience you'll ever go through, is writing your story from beginning to end. So just start, even if it's just one sentence, if it's just one memory, or if it's just one moment. Starting is the hardest part, but is also the most powerful. All right. Now, if you're ready to go deeper and you want support on this journey, then I urge you to join the Powerful Books community. It's a safe space, right? Shame is left out. It's judgment free, where it's a community where we guide you step by step on how to go from having a blank page, which is probably where you're at now, to having a first draft of your story. And inside the Powerful Books community, you get access to weekly live calls. You get access to an accountability partner. You get video trainings and worksheets that literally go through everything that you need to write out that first draft of your story. And you get the community of inspiring trauma survivors, just like yourself, like me, from all over the world, who will have your back no matter what. Now, the link to join is in the description below. Go on to that. You can watch the video on there that gives you a full breakdown for what you get inside. So I definitely urge you to watch that. We've got a deal running at the moment. Our community is $97 a month, but we currently have a 50% discount where you can lock in a forever price of $47 a month. This will be changing on the 1st of February, right? It's a new year. We're starting a new year now. Loads of people are like, oh, I will start my goals in the new year. No, you start your new year goals before the new year, right? We don't want to start the new year in first gear. We want to start the new year in third gear. Let's get there now, right? So we have a 50% discount. Our membership will be going back up to $97 a month from the 1st of Feb, but you can lock in your forever price if you sign up anytime from now until the 1st of Feb. For $47 a month, you get access to everything. All right, everything to go from a blank page to that first draft of your book. So the link is below this video if you want to check it out. Thanks for watching. Get started and be powerful.